All right, boom, boom, boom. I hope you can hear me. I've been having issues with audio. If anybody will be so kind to tell me if you can hear me. I think you should be able to hear me from what I can see. From what I can see, you can. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. Sorry for the late start. I just keep having issues with this audio. But thank you so much. Thank you so much once again. Forgive me for being late. And I think it's time for us to jump into this very, very important topic. And today we are talking about the experience we have as web developers going through family courts. And I think there's a very peculiar, very specific way we experience things. And I explained a bit in my last live when I was talking about male loneliness epidemic. And since then I've had some communication, and people are like, "Oh, web developers are the same as everybody else." Like, yeah, we are the same. We're still human. At the same time, there are some things that are different, because what we do is difficult to describe to anybody who is not part of it, right? And the primary thing that I think affects us is there's already a lot of misconceptions we have to deal with in our regular jobs, right? With clients, with our employers and so forth. So when you add the family court to it, it just makes it a whole new level. But I don't want to dwell too much on the differences between web developers and everybody else. What I want to jump into is the issues that are affecting us. And in today's live, we are talking about when you can't see your kids. And this is very interesting because for some weird reason it's a hot topic. A lot of people have mixed emotions about it. Some people are angry about it. Some people don't care about it. Some people, I believe, want fathers specifically to struggle with these issues. And most of the developers are male, and many are fathers. And I went through this myself because yeah, at a point in time I couldn't see my kid for a while. I think over 3 years. And if you combine all the periods, it's longer than that, but let's say about 3 years I couldn't see him from the time he was a little baby. And that was difficult for me, and I was juggling client work with going to court and just dealing with the depression that came from that. And around that time it was also COVID times, so that made it even worse. His mother was very well, let's just say it was not easy to deal with the whole situation. So that gave me a lot of experience, because I've spent many years in family courts. And even though I live in the UK, I learned a lot by studying what's going on in the United States and other parts of the world, different parts of the world, because that gave me a wider perspective and gave me ideas that I could use in courts over here. So at a point in time, like I said, I couldn't see him at all. I was facing a lot of false accusations and lies, and just being smeared and made to look bad in front of other people. At least half of my family stopped talking to me because they sided with my son's mother when uh, she told them I abandoned the kid, which of course I didn't do, but they believed it. And she said a lot of things. It was just a very difficult time. Lost some of my friends again because of the smear campaign. Some people, I think, kind of came around later. Nobody really apologized like that, but they tried to support me afterwards. But some people, because of that experience, because of what happened, I don't speak with them till today, or they don't speak with me. And I've spoken to many fathers, and as time went on, I had so much experience in the court that I started coaching people. I'll be working with clients on other projects, and people started contacting me for help with the courts, because they realized, speaking with me, that I had a lot of experience. I understood the process very well, and it even got to a time I had some mothers, sisters, grandmothers of their fathers that couldn't see their kids contact me asking for help, asking for advice, or asking if I could coach, their brother, their son or grandson through the court system. So I will give a general idea of of what I think you can do and how you can look at it. I'll talk about the experience. There's a lot of topics to cover. So after this topic, or after today, just send me any message you want, and I'll start covering those things, because it's hard for me to know where to start that is most useful, that you will find most useful. But where I want to start with is really dealing with the pain of it, dealing with the pain. Whew, because a lot of people don't understand how much it hurts a father not to see their child. There's this conception or misconception in the society that men don't care or fathers don't really care. And when you watch movies and look at the media and so forth, they always try to show the struggling single mother. They don't show the father who is trying to get close to the child and is being stopped. And of course, as usual, the false accusations and so forth accompany those situations. So to deal with that pain is not easy, because when you talk to people, at some point they get tired of it. Even if they care, or even if they love you, they have their own problems. And many people just don't understand how it rips your heart apart. It's almost like ripping your heart out of your chest when you can't see your children. When you go to the court and then you find out and you realize, or you get into the shock of realizing that you're not going to see your child anytime soon. And when you do get to see your child, in most cases, you're not going to see your child as often as both you and your child would want, right? Because, which is another painful thing, most people in our society, in the system, in the judicial systems in the West, don't think the father is necessary. They don't think everyday involvement of the father is something that is important. They just don't care about that, and they don't think it's valuable. In fact, they think it's detrimental. And so when you go to the courts and you get treated like you are some kind of stranger, it's like you may think you have the right to see your child, right? You would assume that until you get to that situation. In the UK, for example, both parents don't have a legal right to see their child. It is strange for people, and they don't believe it when I say to them. They think I'm crazy, or they think it's some kind of conspiracy theory. But that's the law in the United Kingdom, and the United States law in some ways mirrors this. But or you may have the right, in whichever state you live in, or whichever country you live in, but there's another law that sort of takes away that right, or doesn't guarantee that you see the child a lot. So in the UK, you don't have the right to see the child, neither does the mother. That is the fact. You can look it up, you can see it, and that is the truth. What you do have is what they call parental responsibility, and that means you have a responsibility to the child, but you don't have the right to see the child. Now, the child does have the right to see the parent. So over here, there is a presumption in the court that the child should see the parent, or have contact with the parent, because that is going to be beneficial, or in the best interest of the child, as I like to say. However, what's interesting is that contact does not mean seeing the child, or spending the child, or even being alone with the child. And I'll get to that in a moment. So, for example, when my son was a baby, before he could speak, the court said I could write him letters, right? So obviously he could hardly speak, or maybe he could say a few words, but I could write him letters. And as far as the law was concerned, or the court was concerned, that was contact with the child. So I used to do drawings for him, because he was little colorful drawings that he would look at. And that was how it started. That was the contact with my child. And in the UK, seeing your child, they call it contact. And I've heard of many people in the States, and I've spoken to people as well who had similar experiences, gotten a ridiculous court decision or ridiculous verdict from the court about how they would spend time with their child. And it really, really hurts, because it's almost as if the system you live in, the system where you pay your taxes, where you work, it sees you as a secondary citizen, as a second class citizen. You are not valued. You are in fact devalued, and it's ridiculous, right? To think, let's say you only get to see your child once a month or something like that for an hour or two, right? Which costs something, which I had at the point in time, once a month, an hour at one point in time. And the fact that somebody would say that with confidence and think they've made a good decision really hurts. And at the time, the reason given was, I can't divulge all the details of what happened, but basically the overall view from the social workers was that he was little, and for some reason they think it's not safe to just rush a relationship, which I think is just such nonsense. Because by that token, any parent who travels should when they come back, should not spend time with their kids because it's not safe, right? But obviously that's not what happens. But the logic within the court system defies logic in your regular life, which adds to the pain. And then you find out you're obliged to pay money, you're spending money in court. Let me see if my audio is working, because it keeps skipping here. Let me just see. Okay, I think it is working. Yes, so I was saying the logic is different. It defies what you would think would work in regular life. And it's just painful. You can't even explain this to people. It's so incredulous. It's so unbelievable, the things that go on in the courts. And when you see so many fathers going through this, and they tell you think about it, or talk about it, go to some kind of groups, which helps to a degree. But at the end of the day, if you still can't see your kids, you can't see your kids. And your kids need you. And when they grow up without their father, it does affect them. It does hurt them. And then this, and it hurts you more knowing that that's what's happening. And when you see it happening on such a large scale, you can't help but think that this is almost by design, or if it wasn't by design, the system, the people in the system, right, or the powers that be, if you will, realize, oh, look, this is the effect of what's happening, and decide that to keep it that way. Because every year there's more and more funding for other issues, but when it comes to fathers, there's less and less. In fact, the recent Father's Day, many schools did not even celebrate it or acknowledge it. There was nothing, almost nothing anywhere about Father's Day this year. It was even worse than last year. So that just shows you how little the society values fatherhood in this day and age. But what I think is, you still have to find a way to fight, and you have to fight. Because I fought very hard. Now, of course, it's still not easy, but I do get to see my son every week. He spends at minimum half of the holidays with me by court order. We have a shared live with order, so I have about 40% of the time he was with me. And so it was a difficult fight because, like I said, at some point I was told I couldn't see him, period. I just couldn't see him. And then I could see him 1 hour a month, then an hour every 2 weeks. Like I had to build it up little by little, again, starting from writing letters. And nobody thought to think that hurts the child, right? They say it's in the child's best interest. And what's crazy is I looked through a lot of case law in the UK. And again, I studied some stuff in the United States, but obviously I'm not qualified to give any legal advice. So this is just my experience. And I discovered a decision from one of the higher courts. I don't know if it was our Supreme Court or the High Court, or it was an appeal case. And the judge decided, which is binding on the lower courts, that when the parents separate, the child needs the stability of a single home. And when I read that, like it was like almost like an enlightening, like an epiphany of a different level, because I realized the root of it all. Like they really don't think it's important to have the mother and the father and and the children together. The system, the politicians, whoever is in charge, really doesn't think that we are needed. In fact, they think it's better if we are not there, or the contact with us is limited, or the time our children spend with us is limited. So it's something that you go into the court system and you find out. And again, it doesn't matter where you live, there's a version of this, right? They have different ways to rationalize it, different ways of explaining it away, but it comes down to the same thing. You are not necessary, because in effect, that's what they are saying, because they won't have you with your child. What is necessary, of course, is your money that they will take any day, and they do take it as much as they can. And that's about it. As one social worker told me, who was helping me out, and I had some good people helping me out because I searched for help, a lot of help. I really put a lot of work into this, which is why I was able to get the results I got. He said, it was a male social worker, and he said to me, they don't care if the ground opens and swallows you right now. If you disappeared from the surface of the earth, they wouldn't even blink. Like, it does not matter to them. They really don't care. And again, many think it's better if you don't exist, or are not involved with the child, apart from money, of course. So the question becomes, what do you do? What can you do? What I've learned is, again, like I was saying earlier, you have to learn how to deal with the pain, because the system is built in a way that your pain is constantly attacked. So the lawyers on the opposite side will try to say things that will trigger you. Some judges will do that as well. The mother would say things or write things that will trigger you. When you get triggered, you do things that are wrong. And I've read comments of some people saying, like, they did something that they think was normal, like arguing with a social worker. You can't do things like that. Anything that that shows any sort of negative emotion is going to be magnified. Now, maybe I should have said this up front, and you already know this, but it's not a fair system. It's not a fair situation. It's not a situation where you are going to you can expect that you get a treatment that gives any sort of dignity or respect or any sort of value, right? So this is hard. This is hard. It is hard. So you can't expect to be respected. So and they know this. and they know you feel the humiliation, they know you feel the anger, and they would use that to trigger you. And many people make big mistakes because of that. Many fathers give up. When you get the false accusations, I've seen fathers cry because they just couldn't handle the accusations. Right? I was just determined that come hell or high water, I'm gonna keep going. And it meant, like I said, it meant losing some of my family, friends that I had for decades, that just went with it. And I knew I'd be vindicated in the end, and I was. So you have to learn how to deal with the pain, because that's when things started also shifting for me, because I spent a lot of time grieving. I really cried my eyes out. I didn't care. I wept. I actually went, I got a place it was in the best part of town, but it was just perfect for this kind of thing, because all the dirt, all the slime was there. I was like, let me leave it there. And I'd go there and I would cry, I would weep. I would just let it all out. I would just let it all out, because then it made it easier, because I didn't get triggered so much when I was dealing with the court or the social workers or the court advisors or anybody involved. And what I did was I wrote down every single thing that hurt my feelings, every single thing that the mother would say that would trigger me, that used to really get to me, really, really hurt my feelings. I would write those things down. And when I wrote those things down, I would ponder on them, and I would allow them to trigger me, obviously in a safe space. And I would allow myself to feel the pain. And it was almost like getting immune to it. Because at some point I just started laughing, because I was like, why do I even care about this? Right? In fact, a lot of the things that I found traumatic all the way from childhood, like I just cleared it all. And it gave me clarity to start thinking, to start strategizing, to start planning. And at one point, I got rid of my lawyer. Whilst I'm grateful for a lot of the things she did, I think some of the things she did sabotaged my case. And I realized most lawyers just go through the motions. So the second step is, once you've grieved enough and you can start thinking clearly, you have to start studying, the situation, understanding the law, understanding how you are viewed, because again, that forces you to start behaving in a more relaxed manner, and people start, relaxing around you, and you start getting more and more. Now you're not going to get to a point where they will see you as an equal parent. That's not going to happen. They will find ways to still separate you, or make life harder for you, or to give the mother more control. They almost always will, and they always do. They always do, to be honest. With a few exceptions, that is the case. And even when you have the control, you still get pressure, you still get mistreated, still get asked stupid questions, you still get treated like you need the mother's permission to do things. It's just a horrible thing. But once you know this, it affects you less and less. You start focusing on what's important, which is your relationship with your kids, and you start working on that. So, and then when you have a lawyer, you need to not rely on the lawyer completely. You need to always come to the lawyer with things you have thought through things you have researched, things you have understood in a way that you can give the lawyer better instructions and better ideas to fight for your case, to fight for your children, and to fight for yourself. And then the third thing you also need is to grow as a man. You really need to start understanding that you're a man first and foremost. The society we live in devalues men, and this is one of the ways they devalue men. But you're still a man. That's why you're a father. But you're a man first. So you have to improve every aspect of your life that you can. Your health, your finances, your career, your dating, things you do for fun, you really have to become a better man for yourself. Because remember, the stronger you become, the better of a father you will be. And no matter what, sooner or later, the children will still come to you. They always do, because they need you, no matter what you are in. Now, well, no matter what they say, because there are situations where the kids say, "Oh, I don't want to see my daddy. I don't want to see my dad." Obviously influenced by the mother. And you have to be strong, and you can't let this get to you. You have to get to a level where you are bigger, more powerful, and stronger than you were before all this happened. Now, the one thing that is hard is thinking that, oh, she might want to get more of your resources, but there's ways to deal with that. We don't have time to talk about that now. But that is secondary to you being bigger, better, stronger. Because again, that will help you in your fight for your kids. It will help you to deal with the issues of fighting for your kids. And also it will help you strategize better and to deal with the pain. Like, it all ties in together, one feeds into the other. And you need to have faith and hope. It's easy to say, right? It's easy to say, hard to do. I still wake up in the middle of the night sometimes because of some of the things that go on and some of the things that have happened. And I don't want to make today a sob story about myself, so I won't go into details. You probably have enough of your own pain. And but it's hard not being able to see your kids. It's very difficult. So yeah, so those are the basic things that come to mind when I think of the fight for your children. Like I said, the system does not value you. The system does not respect you. The system does not want you to be in your kids' lives. That's just the reality. You have to accept it as the first step, not because it's right, but because that's the reality. You have to accept that that's the reality. So don't expect that love, that respect, that appreciation, because it's not coming. There's nobody coming to save you. Only you can save yourself. And with the men that have helped, and like I said, when people realized that I actually was having some success and I was able to deal with the emotions and things like that, and I've helped or coached people, the ones who make it are the ones who realize that they will be attacked, and they just accept that attack as part of the situation. This is what we have to deal with. So once you accept that, you grieve your pain. You really have to grieve it, because you can't hold the resentment. You can't hold it in, because it's going to eat you alive. And again, when you're in court and outside, people who are involved will use that against you. They will trigger you. They will say things to you. They will do things to you that will hurt your feelings, that will make you angry, that will make you want to explode. Remember, their fundamentals presupposition is that you shouldn't be there, and it's just their worldview. They don't see you as an equal parent. They don't see you as a valuable parent. It's just the way they think, right? So you're not going to change how they think. So when you grieve your pain, it's easier for you to deal with all these irrational people, irrational judges, irrational court advisors, irrational lawyers, and irrational parents that you work with. Study the situation, study the law, look for people who have succeeded, figure out what they did differently, and then keep fighting. If you know you're not going to see your kids at all for whatever reason, still work on yourself. Either way, work on your life. Make sure you really find joy somewhere. You need it, because your children need you to be happier, so they can trust you, because you're still the man and you're still the leader of the family. Even though you're being devalued, you're still showing a way, you're still paving a way. And that is just our fate, where we are in these situations. So this is what I've got for today. Again, send me any questions. I'm happy to help as much as I can. So, like I said, it's a broad topic. I don't know. I try to touch on the various big areas or the major ones that I think are important, but there's details. So let me know what matters to you. Thank you for watching. My name is John Paul from wpcover.com, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you for watching. My heart goes out to you. I'm sorry you have to go through this, and I hope things do get better for you and your children. All the best.